always wonder how long it takes for people to start watching these videos. But anyway, I can see there's one person watching it. I wonder who that is. Anyway, I'm drinking this today, Perlenbacher from Lidl, non-alcoholic, obviously. It's all right. Taste of beer. Anyway, nice day out there, right? It's beautiful, beautiful weather. And I want to start today just a little bit talking about going out for a ride today with Katie, Chrissy, Dave, and his friend Neil, who it turns out I knew, but I didn't know I knew until I got out with him. And we went out on gravel bikes and we did about 40k, and it was absolutely brilliant. Any of you that have been out for a ride or a run today will know that the weather's absolutely incredible. 2 people watching. Can one of you let me know in the chat if you can actually hear what I'm saying, because I can't tell that bit. How you doing? If you are watching this later on, thanks for watching and catching up. All I wanted to actually talk about, brilliant, thanks Dave. What I wanted to talk about today actually is a big topic, I guess, something that's been going on really since the start of the year for me, where it's more of a shift in mindset. So when I started this channel, whenever it was now, 2018, I think, the whole idea was about kind of training for the Bristol Triathlon and trying to get sort of fitter and all that kind of stuff. And actually the shift over the last 3-4 months has been more holistic, bigger kind of life style type thing, I guess. And I wanted to talk about that mainly today because it seems to have stuck. We're into April now, so 4 months, I think, getting on for 100 days into the year. And you know, I think a lot of the things that dawned on me at the start of the year about where I was at as a human being, let alone as a cyclist, a runner, swimmer, whatever, but as a human, was much more a bigger picture thing. So I wanted to talk about that today, really. So as we get older, I know most of the people that watch this channel are maybe a little bit older, and certainly not being followed by 18-year-old wannabe pro triathletes or anything like that, which is fine because most of your audience reflect who you are. As we get older, our kind of bodies change, and the ability to be completely bomb-proof like I was in my 20s, it just isn't there any longer. And from my perspective, the way I was living my life, that's a decision I had to make about how I carried on, basically. And I want to try and explain the thought process behind that and what I've done so far, and where the ideas have come from and all the rest of it. Is probably something that we'll talk about over a couple of vids, but that's what I want to talk about for the next sort of half an hour or so ish. I might cut it a bit short depending on where I get to. Always find it a bit weird having a single conversation on my own. Anyway, so yeah, as we get older, we kind of, our bodies change. Our abilities to sort of recover really are the biggest thing. The ability to recover from anything. I used to be able to go out drinking until 4 a.m. and then get up the next day and go running, and you know, with impunity really, in your sort of 20s and sort of all sorts of other stuff that you put your body through, and that kind of comes to a slightly, you know, steady decline really for everybody as the years go on. And I think that's the biggest realization I've come to in really at the end of last year, was I just can't do it anymore. Pushing my body right to the edges of both health and fitness and the opposite end of the spectrum of drinking and not eating properly. And you know, that's essentially where all these ideas came from. So the way I'm thinking about it is, wow, I have no idea what that is. Some kind of apocalyptic aeroplane. Yes, the way I've kind of thought about it is, those of you that are financially clever will sort of understand the idea of a pension plan, which as a self-employed musician is not really something I know an awful lot about. But the way I kind of see the next 4 years, I'm 46 now, see sort of 50 as being a bit of a tipping point physiologically, and how I've got an opportunity really over the next 3 or 4 years to kind of pay into a sort of physical pension, and kind of really have an opportunity to live off of everything that I do in the next 3 or 4 years, because an awful lot of things happen to your body as you kind of hit middle age. And Phil Cavill in his book Midlife Cyclist kind of says midlife middle-aged people are kind of like 45 to about 70, he says, as a kind of general rule. So I'm right on the edge of that, the very start of that. So I'm not thinking of old age because I am. What I'm thinking of old age is getting older in the future. I have to deal with that now, and this idea of kind of paying into a physical pension plan, really, and investing in that, and that's kind of where my head's at. And I like the idea of thinking of it that way. Perhaps I should probably take my own advice when it comes to money as well. And that really the ability to recover and bounce back from kind of, drinking and eating badly and not looking after myself and then trying to look after myself. Those two things don't kind of balance out. The ability to recover from that stuff declines. And an awful lot of things come into that, really, don't they? Fitness, obviously, being one thing. Can we train as hard and as much as we want to as we get older? And that declines, like I say, the recovery. Looking at nutrition, how that changes. Looking at sort of things like mental health, how does that kind of fit into the whole scheme of things? If you kind of identify yourself as a cyclist or whatever, as a musician or whatever it might be, how does that impact if you suddenly can't do those things any longer, at least to the extent you want? And I think that's most of our fears as we get older, is can we improve is the first thing. We'd all like to get better. Can we maintain where we're at, or are we all in this steady decline? And I think what I've realized over the research and the reading that I've done is that most people's expectations are, at best, we can maintain where we're at, and at worst, we're going to decline. But look, over time we will, but there seems to be an increase in the amount of time we can make improvements to our physical output, and it's not a decline from the age of 45. The minute you kind of hit middle age, it doesn't just decline. You can still improve. You can still get harder and faster. You've just got to be super smart about the way you go about it. And one of the things you need to take into account is recovery, and the fact that you have to listen to your body. You have to know that when you're in your 20s and you're having a bit of a rough day and you don't really want to do the intervals, you can probably force your way through it. But when you start getting into your middle age and beyond, you have to start really thinking about why you're feeling that way and whether it's a really good idea to kind of keep pushing on. But we can get fitter. If we go back to those three things, we look at fitness, really, and sort of nutrition thing. A couple of pointers, really, that I think are really important today. So the first thing for fitness is that as we sort of hit middle age and go sort of over the age of 50, we get something called muscle atrophy. So that means essentially the muscle fibers reduce. It becomes harder to build new muscle. Or impossible to build new muscle to some extent. When you're younger, you can go and do weights and you build that. However, what we can do is hypertrophy, make bigger the muscle fibers that we still have. And sort of reading through Phil Cavill's book, it's really interesting, and the research that he cites, actually, which I've also read. I find it genuinely fascinating that he's talking about when we're in our 20s and 30s, we can go and do intervals where we're riding at 200-300 watts, and that will improve our ability to ride at 200 or 300 watts. As we get older, we need to do more resistance training. We need to lift heavier weights, and actually do some sort of resistance training rather than relying entirely on the sport that we're doing. So we probably have to reduce the amount of hours that we're spending on the bike, possibly, as time goes on, slowly, gradually reduce that, and increase the amount of time that we spend in the gym doing resistance training with weights. And what we should see is an improvement in our ability to ride or run or swim or whatever those things are. I found that genuinely fascinating, and it's something that I've built into the way I'm going about my training. And I'll come into that a little bit more in a bit, because I want to talk a little bit more about strength and conditioning stuff, because there's a couple of elements of that. The other thing is nutrition, and it's coupled with the idea of the fact that we start to lose some ability to build muscle mass, and that in terms of nutrition, we need to up our protein intake as we get older. And at the age, when you're younger, below the age of sort of in your middle age, you need kind of 0.3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight every 4 to 5 hours. So let's say kind of lunch and dinner, you need to have that element of of protein. It ups to 0.4 when you kind of hit the age of 45 plus. When you're getting into 50, 60, whatever, you need more protein to kind of improve that muscle mass really as much as we possibly can. And for me, that's kind of, wrote it down here, around about 40 grams of protein. Now, a chicken breast will give you about 60, 70 grams of protein. So, it's a case of like really consciously thinking of those types of things. And just sort of eating better. And this mindset of flipping, as I'm going to go on to talk about, this idea of flipping it from trying to get better at riding my bike to just paying into a physical pension has kind of enabled me to not have to think so much about the effort that goes into eating properly, that goes into training or drinking more water or taking my vitamins. I've taken a multivitamin, vitamin D, cod liver oil, and omega-3 every day since the start of the year. And I've never done that before. And it's just there. It's a habit because I've flipped the way that I'm thinking about my approach to training. It's not about riding my bike faster anymore. It's about that being part of a much bigger picture of being as fit and active as I possibly can as I get older. And that's quite a big reframing from my perspective anyway. So, as part of my training, I've been doing the Couch to 5K, as some of you will know that have been watching the videos. And I wanted to bring this up actually, that day was the longest run I've done. I think I worked it out nearly getting on for 4 years. So not very long, so about 9K. But the point is that I'm able to run now with complete impunity. I don't have any repercussions from going for a run. I've run 3 times this week. I've done an interval session on the turbo, not on the turbo, on the treadmill straight after a turbo session. So essentially a brick session. I've done a tempo run. I've done a long, slow run. And I'm just enjoying those and not having any pain afterwards. And it got me thinking about how I've managed to get there from a point of not being able to run at all at the start of the year. I think the very first Couch to 5K run, something like 10 90-second runs, followed by like a minute or 2 minutes recovery or something. And I really, really genuinely found that hard work. For a lifelong athlete, really, that's a bit worrying. But I knew I had to stick at it, and stick at it I did. And now I'm kind of increasing, coming off, obviously finishing the Couch to 5K thing. I've come off of that now, and I'm doing my sort of normal training, long slow runs, and interval work, and then if time allows, a tempo run. And this is what I mean about this flip, this complete flip in what I'm doing and the way I'm approaching it. What was going through my mind about this is the fact that now that I am able to run again, what's enabled me to do that is very careful increase in load over those 9 weeks of the Couch to 5K plan. And that as I've been going through it, I've been doing strength and conditioning work, been doing sort of some core work, quite a lot of core work. And it got me thinking about when you're trying to come back from something like an injury or illness or a long layoff, that you're never prescribed to do the thing that you want to do. So what I mean by that is if you want to get back into running and you've had an injury, and I think since 2015 I had plantar fasciitis in my right foot. This is 2015 was my year when I was, whatever it was, 78 kilos and sort of doing well in races. The August of that, I picked up plantar fasciitis in my right foot. Then I had plantar fasciitis in my left foot, tore my meniscus in my left knee, and as that was repairing, I tore the meniscus in my right knee. And so I've been struggling sort of ever since then. And when you go to osteopath or chiropractor or whatever, and you talk about your injuries, they never say go for a run. That's not the treatment that they give you. You have to do strength and conditioning and flexibility. And the irony being that we sort of, once we're back to full fitness again, what we do is we start running, and we don't think about the fact that what we were told to do to be able to get back to running was strength and conditioning, core work, flexibility, balance, proprioception, all those things. And that's sort of, as that's been going around my mind for months, slowly I've been sort of much more enjoying the strength and conditioning stuff, coupled with the Phil Cavill thing about the muscle hypertrophy, that trying to sort of maintain those muscle fibers that we have as we get older, that we do have as we get older. And so I've been enjoying doing that, and I've been doing some time on the weights, core work, not so much on the legs because I feel like my legs take a bit of a hammering on the bike and stuff, but I do need to start doing that kind of thing, but also upper body stuff. And I've been enjoying doing that, and I use it as part of my training plan or my training sessions before I go and do something. So I'll do an abs workout and some glute activation for 15-20 minutes before I go for a run. And touch wood, everything seems to be going well. And when I was out doing a tempo run day before yesterday, I think, I could feel it in my glutes. I could feel it in my core that it's all starting to help and work. And yeah, felt strong. And I think that's one of the things that we love about it, is when we feel strong. I guess to some extent, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. That was the main sort of aspect of it, really. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. If there's anyone, there's 3 people watching now. Hello, happy Good Friday or whatever. Yeah, any thoughts you might have on the subject, stick them in the chat, because I've said, I guess, all I wanted to say. If you are interested in this stuff, this is the book that instigated it all. I have talked about this book before, but Phil Cavell, primarily a bike fitter, but he does go into an awful lot of detail. And as you all know, if you know me well enough, I do like to read books that are well researched, and that don't try and what's the word? They don't kind of make big claims. They just kind of lay it out as it is, and just say it how it is. And that's what I found in this book, is that he kind of explains straight up how it is, and what's going to happen to our bodies, and what we can do to negate and improve as long as we can. And then, of course, obviously, as we do get into later ages, we will start to decline. But of course, that rate of decline, or the amount of time we can maintain it for, can be negated. But from my perspective, I really had to make some. Well, they're not decisions. They're not choices. They weren't choices or decisions that I actually sat down and went, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this. It's just a case of realizing and reading it and kind of going, well, that's what I have to do now. If I want to be like that, then this is what I've got to do. And I'm a bit bloody minded. And, you know, if it means I've got to quit drinking, then I'll quit drinking. And that then suddenly, all of a sudden, isn't difficult. If it means I've got to eat properly, then I just need to get into good habits. And again, that's kind of something that, I'm not saying I'm some kind of, I haven't turned into some kind of a vegan, uber nutritionalist at all, but I am eating better, and I'm eating less rubbish. And, you know, I'm 97 kilos now. So since the start of the year, I've lost, what is that, like 11 kilos or something? 11, just over 11 kilos. I don't know what that is. Like, was that, a stone and a half or something? I don't know. I'm not very good with kind of old money, but it hasn't been a challenge. I haven't been trying to lose weight. What I've done is I've just been eating properly. I've cut out the booze, and I'm training sensibly. And as a result of that, it turns out it's groundbreaking, but essentially, if you eat less and exercise more, you lose weight, which comes as a surprise, right? But I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's not about trying to challenge yourself to do stuff that you know you should do. It's very hard to do stuff that you know you should do. It's very easy to carry out and do the things that you want to do, that just become habits. And I think that's where I'm at right now. I can't see, none of the stuff I'm doing is hard enough to make me think that I'll fall off the wagon to some extent, because it doesn't feel like I'm on a wagon. So there we go. That's where we're at. So it's fitness stuff. It's looking at what fitness I do over the next 3 to 4 years. Strength and conditioning has got to be part of that, because what I build and put into my pension plan in the next 3 to 4 years is what I've got to live off of. So I need to try and get my health and my fitness as high as I can. I need to build as much muscle as I can. I'm not talking about turning into Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm talking about, you know, building a structure that will last me, and kind of just steadily increasing those fitness levels as best I can. So that's where we're at. That brings me on to the last thing I want to talk about, because I've been rabbiting getting on for 20 minutes now. What I have got to do is look at what's coming up, and I need to make some changes to my training really to accommodate this. So in the next month, not next month, month after next, in June, got a lot of bits and pieces coming up. Actually, pretty much all of the main bulk of the things that I'm going to do is coming up in June. So in 58 days' time, on the 4th of June, I have the Bristol Triathlon, which again I've been asked by Tough Runner to go and do the beginners talk, which is really lovely of them to do that, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I'm going to race the Olympic, and I've got a feeling that I actually might not be a race to win, but I feel like I'm in a position now with the way that I am. If I can get myself down to near 90 kilos, I'm going to be in a position where I can actually do something where I'll be proud of myself, rather than feeling horrendous, and rather than feeling like I've got around. I'm going to feel like probably will be in the best shape I will have been in since 2015. And that's all I can ask for at the moment. So that's the first thing. What does that mean I've got to do? Well, it means I've got to carry on with the running stuff. It means I've got to get back on the TT bike, because I've not ridden the TT bike for probably 2 years in anger. I think I set my 10-mile time trial PB maybe 3 years ago on the R1017 over in Monmouth, which I'd like to get back over to do. But I'm looking over there because that's where it is, and it's looking beautiful in the sunlight over there on the wall. But I need to get back on the TT bike. I need to get back into TT position and feel comfortable on that. And I need to swim. And it's not something that I've been doing any swimming for some time, mainly because I don't like swimming on my own in the pool. I hate it. I get really bored. And I'm any other excuses I make are just going to be excuses. So it's just because I haven't made the time to do it. I've been focusing on swimming. Sorry, I've been focusing on cycling and running. That's been my main focus. The strength and conditioning stuff has come into it because of the importance of it. That's dawned on me in the last 3 months. Now I need to get swimming because I've probably forgotten how to do that. So Wednesday is club pool swim. I'm going to see if I can get back to do some of those over the next 58 days. What does that probably leave me? Like 6 sessions, 8 sessions maybe there, and also get in the lake, Marine Lake. It's 1 kilometre away. I need to be in there now. I know it's still pretty cold, but that's planned. So more swimming, at least 1 session a week, preferably 2. Hopefully it'll come back. We'll see. I think I can make the biggest gains in time on the bike and the run anyway. I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of triathlon, but I think my opinion is that if you look at the best triathletes, they're brilliant runners, they're okay cyclists, and they barely swim well. I'm exaggerating, but you get my point. None of the best triathletes in the world are fantastic swimmers and average runners. You have to be a great runner, you have to be a good cyclist, and you have to survive the swim to be able to be in with the running. So I think that's the main focus. Is going to be the swim last. So that's the first thing, 58 days time. In 70 days time, on the 16th of June, is Gritfest. That starts. So I can't remember what the distances are, but they're decent. Today's gravel bike ride has made me feel super comfortable about it. Today I felt for the first time in, when did I get my gravel bike? September, October. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, whatever that is, 6, 7 months. First time I've ever been out on the gravel bike and actually felt like, not that I knew what I was doing, didn't feel, I wasn't thinking. I think that's the thing. I was just riding my bike and I was trusting everything. Felt like I had power, felt like I had control, felt like I had the core strength and the upper body strength that I've not had before to kind of actually get the bike where I wanted it to go. So that's really reassuring. But that's Gritfest, 16th, 17th, 18th. I think the first day there's a really short time trial. Then the Saturday and Sunday there are longer rides. But I still need to train for that. And then a few days later, on the Wednesday following the weekend, is the longest day, 21st of June, and that's in 75 days' time. And my intention is to try and ride 400k that day. And as you watch these live streams before, will know that I've got a bigger picture. Oh, thanks, Chrissy. Brilliant. I mean, I know we mentioned this before. Definitely, let's get something fixed in the diary so that we get ourselves there. Accountability is the big thing, isn't it? Thanks, I appreciate that. What was I saying? Yeah, the 400k ride. So I've planned a route. I'm going to go up to Treowen, which is where we got married, near Monmouth, near Rockfield Studios, and then ride down across the bridge and then back down towards here. and then do a big loop of the Mendips and come back up and try and do 400k. Those of you who watch the channel will know that I've alluded to this being part of a bigger plan for 2026. It's going to be part of a bigger plan for 2026. Whether it comes off or not, to do in 2026 is viable until maybe until next year, but we'll get there. This is all part of it, though. To give you a little bit of a clue, the idea of going from Gripfest and riding off road to doing 400k on the road is pretty much the two sides of the project that I want to see if it is viable. So I need to get some road miles in big time. I need to get a 200k, which I did last year, 200k ride in. Probably need to get 300k ride in, and then just go for it and see how I get on. But it will only be a couple of days after Gripfest, and that's where I'm at the minute. That's it, isn't it? I haven't got anything else to say other than the fact that probably one of the things that spurred me on today on the gravel bike was the fact it's Paris-Roubaix weekend. And I'm very much looking forward to that. It's one race that I've always wanted to go and see in the flesh, and maybe one day I'll go and do that. But for now, I just have to watch on the TV. So I'm going to knock it on the head because I don't want to waffle more than I need to. But those are my thoughts at the minute. That's where my head's at. I'm feeling good, mentally and physically feeling good. I feel like I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and I feel like I'm not having to put a load of effort into doing the things that will get me there because I want to do them. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? That internal motivation. And once that internal motivation is there, you can start to build habits. And then the effort that you have to put into motivation, which is high cost, because you built the habits, everything's easy from there. So we'll see. Fingers crossed it will make a difference. Yeah. If you have watched the live stream, could you do me a favor? I know it sounds like a really odd request, and I've said this the last couple of times, but if you could do me a favor, if you have watched the live stream, those 5 of you, someone's just joined. If you have watched the live stream at any point, if you could do me a favor, and after it's finished and it's uploaded itself, if you don't mind rewatching it, you don't have to watch it again, but if you could just put it on, it helps to the watch time. You would drown Katie, but that doesn't matter because you float over all the things when we're riding on the gravel bikes. You just float over those. So my suggestion would be to take your gravel bike down to Marine Lake and just do laps of Marine Lake on your gravel bike because you float. So there you go. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and Dave. Oh, look, literally all the people in the chat are the people that I rode with today. So hello, thank you for an amazing ride. You are wonderful human beings. And Dave's going to be my support driver and chief degrumpier on the 400k ride on the 21st, which is an incredibly generous thing to do because it's going to be a long day. It's going to be at least 16 hours, and my intention is to get back to Clevedon to the seafront before sunset. I want to be on the seafront for before the sun goes down. So there you go. There you go. He parted the sea. That was was it Moses? Yeah, like you don't want to part the sea, the Marine Lake. You want to ride along. So anyway, yes. Thank you for watching, and yes, do please rewatch it. Or replay it anyway, so it counts the watch time. And otherwise, I'll be back with a normal video, probably covering a little bit of the gravel ride because I've got some wicked footage from today. And I will, see the rest of you on a normal video. But thank you for watching for now, and have a lovely Easter weekend. And I will see you on the next video. Take it easy. End.